Okay, welcome back to our read aloud of Explorers, The Race to the Moon. Last time we talked about the astronauts' trip to the moon, including docking with the lunar module, their supplies that they were able to eat and drink on the way, and then the fact that they needed to strap themselves into their sleeping bags to go to sleep. Today's section is called Touchdown! On July 19th, Apollo 11 reached the moon. The astronauts fired Columbia's rockets to enter the moon's orbit. On July 20th, the astronauts, who had spent most of the trip in overalls, put on their spacesuits. You can see them putting their spacesuits on their overalls there. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin floated through the connecting tunnel into Eagle, leaving Collins alone in Columbia. So these two astronauts got into the Eagle, and Michael Collins, was left alone up in the command module in space. Each astronaut wore a soft cloth helmet with a built-in microphone and earphones so he could communicate with mission control. The Eagle has wings. The two craft separated as they went behind the moon again. Columbia continued to orbit the moon, while Eagle fired its descent engine to slow down for the landing. The Eagle has wings, Armstrong announced. Danger. As Eagle neared the surface, Armstrong spotted that they were about to land on very rough ground. If the craft tipped over, it would not be able to take off again. The two men would be stranded on the moon. During the final moments of descent, that means going down, Armstrong wrestled with the controls as Aldrin called out the craft's height and speed. Fuel ran out just as one of the Eagle's feet touched the dusty ground. The Eagle has landed. Armstrong took control of the landing, slowed Eagle's descent, and steered the craft away from a crater. With seconds to spare, it landed safely. There was silence, and then the calm voice of Neil Armstrong said, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." It had been planned that the astronauts would sleep for 4 hours before going outside. However, they were too excited to rest. Armstrong and Aldrin got into their life support units and protective clothing. Armstrong opened the Eagle's hatch, then stepped down onto the moon. "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind," he said. Buzz Aldrin joined him, and the two astronauts planted the American flag. They listened to their radios as Richard Nixon, the new American president, congratulated them on the success of one of the greatest achievements of all time. Here's Armstrong as he jumps down to the moon. Left on the moon. Footprints left on the moon by Armstrong and Aldrin will last for thousands of years. There's no wind or rain to blow on or wash them away. Walking on the moon. On the moon's surface, Armstrong and Aldrin practiced moving around in gravity 1/6 the strength of Earth's. They tried walking, bouncing, and jumping, but found walking worked the best. Humans walk on the moon. Experiments. NASA scientists had given the astronauts a number of tasks to carry out on the moon. This included taking scientific measurements, setting up an instrument to measure moonquakes, and collecting moon soil. The flag planted by the astronauts was held out straight by a metal rod along the top because there was no wind to make the flag flutter. So you can see this in the close-up here. The top of the flag has actually got a wire along it so that the flag holds out. I believe this flag has since turned white from the sun. The astronauts spent 2.5 hours on the lunar surface. They set up many experiments, including a laser mirror, which was used by scientists to measure the exact distance between the Earth and the moon. For all mankind. The astronauts also left medals and badges on the moon in memory of all those who had died during the history of space travel. During the moon trip, Neil Armstrong uncovered a metal plaque to mark the first moon visit. It reads, "We came in peace for all mankind." Mission accomplished. Their tasks completed, the astronauts returned to the Eagle. Armstrong was the last to leave. He climbed the ladder, squeezed through the hatch, and closed it behind him. Eagle's ascent rocket, that's the going up rocket, was the only part of the Apollo 11 spacecraft which had no backup system. If the rocket failed, they would be trapped on the moon. But it fired smoothly, and the little craft blasted upward to meet Columbia, which was orbiting above to take the astronauts home. So here's a picture of the ascent part of the module going up. Takeoff from the moon. Back in the lunar module, the astronauts prepared for takeoff. Aldrin anxiously fired Eagle's ascent engine, and Eagle took off. The two crafts docked successfully. Then Collins opened the connecting hatch, and Armstrong and Aldrin floated through to join him. Eagle was abandoned as the command module, Columbia, headed back to Earth. So they left behind both parts of the Eagle, the part on the moon and the ascent module that met up with the Columbia in space. There it goes, away in the window. Back on Columbia. Alone in Columbia, around the far side of the moon, Collins was out of contact with Earth and the other astronauts. A newspaper called him the loneliest man in the universe. He watched eagerly as the Eagle approached. Apollo 11 returns to Earth. Re-entry. Apollo 11 approached the Earth at a speed of 16,700 miles per hour. Columbia then separated from the service module. Remember that Columbia is just this little cone that was on the tip of the cylinder. See if I can find a picture of the cylinder, the service module, and the cone together. So this is the Columbia bit, and then this is the service module on the end there. So just this came back to Earth. As the command module was coated in a special layer to withstand the heat of re-entry, to keep the astronauts safe. As Columbia dropped through the air, large parachutes opened to slow its descent. Back on Earth, Columbia splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. A helicopter from the U.S. Navy ship Hornet arrived, and the men were winched up and flown back to the ship. There they entered the isolation container for their quarantine. That's right, these guys had to be quarantined. We didn't know if there were moon viruses at the time, so they had to stay in a box by themselves for quite a while. In an isolation container aboard the Hornet, the astronauts were greeted by President Nixon. So, that's the end of the moon landing missions, and the last several pages of this book are about the rest of the story. You can find out about what else we did on the moon, and then what came after the moon program ended. If you'd like to read more about that, the PDF of this text is in the description for this video, and you can read about it on your own. But for now, that's all, folks.